This episode, we pick up where we left off. Welcome to the Grand Affidavit. He is Grant.
He's David.
And first off, I think we just kind of wanted to address what happened last time. That's first we'd like to say sorry. I think it was pretty unprofessional, but sometimes Grant just loses his way, and I got to be here to bring him back around. But we just want to say sorry.
Right.
So, having said that, we thought it would make sense to talk about fights because we had a fight.
Well, you had a fight. I don't know.
Well, what did you have?
I was just being innocent bystander.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Whatever the hell was going on with you.
Sure, say whatever you want to say, innocent bystander, whatever. I mean, when it all boils down to it, you were kind of the catalyst of that fight. So, you played your role, but that's okay. Let's move on from that. I think we can get past that. I mean, we are still working on us, as it were. So let's actually try and do a podcast that we prepared this time and forget about last time, at least for now, all right? So let's talk about fights. Have you ever been in a fight outside of our last episode?
Well, I mean, I've never been punched before.
I don't know I think I've been punched once. Oh yes, I've definitely been punched once.
I think I've been punched. I've been punched like in the arm, but not in the face or stomach or anything. When I was a real little kid, I was trying to play a game during recess, and everybody kind of like decided I shouldn't play. So I got really angry. I ran away, and I went and sat on the bench by the classroom, and I just kind of like stared at everybody. And for some reason, the person I blamed for it was my friend Amy.
Poor Amy. That's great.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a basketball game. But anyway, so at some point, I got really angry, and I just started running at her, and I punched her in the back, like right on the spine.
Wait, was this the story that you tried to tell last time about the girl you punched? She was also the girl that found the bird crap on you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I did tell this. There you go.
Well, you didn't tell the spine punching story. I mean, I thought you were pretty low human for doing that, but...
yeah, I punched her right in the back.
I mean,
right in the spine.
I suppose it's great to have context now. I don't think it clears you of that, though, but what grade were you in?
Well, they wouldn't let me play. I don't know. It was like third grade, maybe fourth grade.
My big fighting years were the 5th grade and the 6th grade. I was just a jerk. 5th grade, there was this kid. His name was Thomas. I'm trying to remember what his last name was. Anyways, and I don't know why this happened, but the first thing that started this, we had like a year-long like rivalry. And what started it was, first I didn't really like the kid. And one day I was at my locker in 5th grade, and he just comes and jumps in my locker for no reason. And like,
he jumps inside your locker?
In my locker. I probably should have like closed the door on him and been like done with it. Like, you deserve it, lock him in there. Instead, though, I pulled him out, and as I pulled him out towards me, I punched him as hard as I could in the stomach. Just like, so he's coming at me because I'm pulling him in, and I'm coming. So it was a really good punch. In fact, he sat there in class just like green because I punched him so hard in the stomach. So I mean, that wasn't really a fight because it was like this really quick altercation. But then later in the school year, we kind of chirped at each other for most of the year. Then later in the school year, we finally had our schoolyard dust up, as it were. And all I can remember from this fight was me getting him in a headlock and just like feeding him punches. Like the classic like bully thing where he's just like, I wasn't a bully. Like, we were the same size. It's not like I was picking on some kid smaller than me, but I got him in a headlock and I just kept repeatedly punching him in the face until we were broken up. And so I like to go on saying, I was 2-0 in that little series of bouts that we had.
Yeah, well, that's I don't know. The first one doesn't really count, I don't think. The second one at least kind of counts.
it was an altercation. The first one was it was much like you forgetting what we were supposed to do last podcast. It was the catalyst for the fight itself. My fight in 6th grade. Now that's a different story. Me and a buddy, we had decided there was a bully at the school, right? And he was, classic bully. He was the kid who was held back. He was bigger than everyone else. He was picking on kids. So me and my buddy Jamie were like, you know what? We're going to like team up together on this guy and pick on him. So we were picking on him all day, just calling him, rude names. We were in the 6th grade. So, pizza face, classics like that.
Cake eater.
And anyways, cake eater. My buddy Jamie just says, at one point, he's just like, okay, I'm done. And he backs away. Now, Jamie wasn't like, he wasn't like a small kid who was like getting some revenge on a bully. Like he had a pretty decent track record of getting in trouble, getting in fights and whatever. He was like that one friend at the time that my parents were like, man, you shouldn't hang out with him. And whenever I was getting in trouble, it was because I was hanging out with Jamie. So anyways, late in the day, like going into the last class of the day, he decides to back off. He's like, okay, I'm done. No, I'm not doing this anymore. Meanwhile, me being, the I am, I keep pushing, right? And this kid is, he's got a good amount of weight on me. And so finally he's had enough. And so he stands up and we were in class. Class hadn't started yet, but we were in the classroom and I was sitting in my chair and he stands up and like flips the chair out from under me. And so I end up on the floor and my first reaction, instead of just like being like, whoa, dude, I'm sorry, or getting up and like punching him or something, like, it's on. I got up and I picked up my chair and I threw my chair at him. Like hit him in the face with my chair. It stumbled him a little bit. And then he comes back as we like go to get into the fight and he just like clocks me in the face, punches me like right in the, right in the cheek, right in the temple. And I go down, like kind of get back up. And at that point, the teacher came in and broke it up. So the teacher's smart idea in all of this is he sends us out to the hall together by ourselves. Like, I think back on that and I go, what was wrong with that teacher? Thankfully, we went out into the hall and we literally kind of started laughing about it. And we actually kind of became friends from that point. So, I mean, we never hung out.
Then did you and him beat up Jamie?
No, maybe we should have. Jamie ended up in jail in his later years though, so he probably would have been not a good idea to pick on him. But
were you wearing glasses at the time?
Yeah. I started wearing glasses in the 5th grade. I started wearing glasses the year I started fighting because that meant people wouldn't punch me in the face, and I was really just a dirty fighter. But he knocked my glasses off when he punched me in the face for sure. In fact, I'll say that's why I went down. I went down to pick up my glasses, not because he knocked me down with his punch.
There was a bully in our fourth or 5th grade. Well, I mean, he was the bully forever, the whole...
Right.
Because I went to Lutheran school. So it was the same, like 40 kids from grade 1 to grade 8, but I left in the 6th grade.
Right.
So we were playing soccer, and my best friend all of a sudden got pushed down by the bully and was just getting kicked over and over and over again. So then my response was to run in really quick and like jump into the bully. And then I grabbed my friend and lifted him up and pushed him out of the way. And then I get pushed down from behind from the bully.
Right.
And then I'm the one on the ground getting kicked over and over and over again.
But you were a hero.
I know.
Yeah.
Enrique Iglesias, baby. My brother then saw what was going on because the huge crowd gathered around, and my brother just walks in. He was 2 grades ahead of us, and just picks up the kid and walks him away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I like to say, because my ribs are deformed a little bit, so I think that might have been what caused it.
Right.
I'm not sure about that. As you can imagine me right now feeling up my ribs on both sides.
Yeah, I was actually feeling my own ribs to try and figure out if they were deformed.
Because my ribs aren't symmetrical. On the left side, they're a little weird. But then years later, I ended up breaking ribs when I was in Portland.
Yeah.
I've never told you that story.
Well, I know you got mugged or whatever, right?
Yeah.
No hero saved you there?
No, here. Well, I was in the middle of a dark, dingy. I walked through the industrial area to get to the airport hotel. So I walked during the day. I walked down there, not during the day, but before nightfall, to get these fish tacos. They were like an hour away from the hotel, and then I walked back. I should have got a taxi, and I walked back, and all of a sudden, there you go.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself. Yeah.
You're crazy.
Well, I didn't think about it. It's Portland. It's Portland.
Yeah, sure. I was actually going to say before that, you're talking about like deformed ribs. I'm like my chest, my left side actually sticks out further than my right side. And I was always like, as a teenager, I was always self-conscious. I thought that was so weird, but I mean, now I don't even think about it, probably because I've put on weight and it's not nearly as noticeable as you could actually see if you stood and looked at me and I was just wearing a t-shirt. You could see like my left side of my chest sticking out further.
No, I don't think I ever noticed.
No, I wouldn't expect you to, but I was going to say, dude, speaking of high school, you came up, was it grade 10 you moved up to Canada?
Grade 11 and 12.
Okay. See, that's what I couldn't. So maybe you weren't here for this. I can't remember if this was grade 10 or 11. But there was a kid at school, he was a smoker, and he got this bright idea one day that he would let someone punch him in the face for a smoke. Now, and actually I'm pretty sure the guy who he asked and said, you can punch me in the face, was the guy who I got in a fight with in grade 6. This guy was still a bully as he rolled his way through high school. But it was great because we're all sitting in like the cafeteria area. It was called the Pit, as I'm sure you remember.
Oh yeah.
There was no cafeteria though, if I recall. I don't know. Anyways,
not in that high school. There was just a snack bar.
Yeah, that's right. I think the closest you could get to cafeteria food was nachos and cheese. But anyways, we're sitting in the Pit, and all of a sudden, there's just like this mass exodus of people because word starts spreading that this guy's going to get punched in the face for a cigarette, and everyone wants to see it. So we all leave. Now, I don't know like how many people are left, but we all crowded at this one back door that went straight out to the smoker's pit, and there was a good number of us, and it all crowded around, and he literally just said, okay, and he stood there, and the other guy just wound up and cracked him in the face. He grabbed the cigarette and just like took off. I don't know what happened to him after that. I'm sure he shed some tears whilst smoking his hard-earned cigarette.
Weird things people do, man.
Well, for cigarettes. I'm sure there's been stranger things people have done for cigarettes. We won't go there, though.
Oh, okay. I won't say it then.
What were you going to say?
Well, there was the time that I almost got into a fight with Patty Jones.
Oh, Patty Jones and his cat.
Yeah.
Actually, Patty Jones's cat, for the listeners, Patty Jones's cat is the inspiration for our logo, the dead cat. That's a story for some. Oh, I will tell that in a minute because that resulted in a fight. But you tell your story first.
Yeah. So I was in the theater. We were building sets and stuff, and all of a sudden, one of the girls in the class was crying, and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" And she explained that Patty was being and Patty had been like going around for a while being the of the walk.
I don't recall Patty ever being like that, so that's hilarious.
Yeah, well, this was my second grade 12 year when I went back to do all the theater classes.
Okay.
So I could get into theater school.
Yeah.
And I did get into theater school, so there we go. Success.
It was worth it.
Yeah, so he had become like super arrogant, and all of a sudden I went over to talk to him about it, and he said something that just I didn't agree with. So the next thing I know, I'm holding him up by the scruff of his neck against the wall. He's off the ground. And I'm just yelling at him, telling him that you're such an arrogant, you can't treat people like this. I was so close to punching him, and I didn't punch him.
Oh, man.
I turn around, and I grab a piece of wood, and I just bang it against the floor repeatedly, and I walk away. I walk out of the theater and out of there. And eventually end up talking to Mr. Erickson. Was he the vice principal?
Maybe. I really don't remember.
Reagan was the principal, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
Not Reagan, so.
Okay.
And because he was the bigger, gruffer guy, the vice principal.
Sure.
And
Sure.
he just told me this, he told me a similar story that happened to him. And he says, we're fine here. If you would have hit him, we would have a problem, but you didn't hit him. We're good.
I appreciate that you went to the vice principal.
No, he found me. I was out front sitting.
Oh, okay.
Because I walked away, and then
Gotcha.
he walked out and sat next to me, and then he said, I want you to come talk to me. And so I went and talked to him. And
Okay. So I was going to say, man, Grant, just like the altogether decent human being, which, I mean, whatever. But you're a hero on one end, and then you protect a girl, so you're a hero on the other. And then I was going to say, and then you go and rat yourself out? But no, so he found you. So speaking of Patty.
I was screaming so loudly in the theater that everyone in the school probably
That's
heard
impressive. Me. But as I say, speaking of Patty, so back to his cat, which I kind of spoiled the ending a little bit. It ended in a fight of sorts. But so one morning, and this was the summer after I graduated, so before that second year of grade 12. So maybe this is what launched Patty into the grade 12 version of Patty. I don't know, but I was driving to work and I was working at a golf course.
You're his orange origin story.
Yes, there we go. I was driving to work at a golf course. I was doing maintenance or whatever, so I was going bright and early. It was like 4:30 in the morning, and Patty actually lived kind of around the corner and just down the street from me. And so I was not far from home, driving down the street, and all of a sudden in the darkness, like the street lights, I see this cat come ripping out. And it just like, I was like, shoot, I'm going to hit this. And it almost made it across. I hit it with my my driver's side. The cat came from my passenger side. I hit it with my driver's side back tire. And I look in my rear view mirror, and yep, sure enough, this cat is, pancaked on the road. I'm like, well, that sucks. But I'm like, it's 4:30 in the morning, so what do? I'm not about to go knocking on doors to say, is this your cat? Is this your cat? Because I didn't know whose cat it was.
You should have pinned a note to the corpse.
Yes, I apologize. So I should say, too, I went to work, and all that day, while I'm working at the golf course, I was convinced, speaking of a few episodes ago when we did our phobias, I was convinced that, I'd read Pet Sematary at one point by Stephen King, and the beginning of that book is this cat that gets run over and then comes back to life. So I was just like keeping my eye out for this just like wretched cat that was going to show up out of nowhere. But anyways, as the day went on, it dawned on me where I was when I ran over this cat. And I'm sitting there going, I think I ran over Patty's cat. Like there's a very good chance I ran over Patty's cat. Now the funny thing is, a few years prior, when I was in like grade 9, I think, I had a paper route and delivering papers to his house. This cat was out front one day, and it just like hissed at me and like swatted at me as I was trying to walk up the walkway. So I didn't like this cat to begin with. It got what it had coming. But anyways, so the day goes on. I figure out, I think I ran over Patty's cat. And then like one of our group of friends said, yeah, Patty's cat got ran over. And I'm like, oh crap, it totally was. So by this point, I'm like, we got to keep it a secret. We can't tell Patty that I ran over his cat. And eventually, we all know who it was that broke the secret to Patty. I will say she had a history, I think, of not being able to keep secrets, if you know who I'm talking about.
I don't know.
But anyways, she who shall not be named.
Sarah?
Yeah, she who shall not be named. So don't name her.
Okay.
But anyways, so where was? Oh yes. So a few days pass, and we're all going to a mall. And I want to say it was like Canada Day. We were all getting together for this. There's a big outdoor concert in Calgary. I think like Biff Naked played at it.
Yeah, I won a duffel bag that day.
Nice. So we were getting ready to go to this, but beforehand we went to a mall.
I still use that duffel bag.
That's very impressive.
Yeah.
So anyways, we go to a mall and we're meeting Patty there, and I think some other people. And by this point, the secret was out. And Patty, when he saw us, came like running at me and just jumped me in the mall. And he started punching me, but he was like, I don't think he was that overly upset because he was really just punching me in the arm.
all I remember didn't he walk up with like a huge stupid smile on his face?
It's possible.
Then he punched you a few times, and then he put his arm around you and just kind of like made this really weird face.
Oh, probably.
Smiling face into your face.
Which really fits for the origin story. That was officially where Patty turned. But while we were discussing names for this podcast, why the cat is now our logo, is one of the names for the podcast that we had discussed was Patty's former cat was one of them. Maybe Patty's dead cat or something. But then we just decided that a logo that was a cat with his eyes X'd out would be very fitting and kind of something that now the story's out. So
and his butthole X'd out.
Oh, well, that was to anyone who tuned in for the very first episode, you can look it up on YouTube because our episodes are also on YouTube. It is there. My handiwork before we got the official Patty's former cat. I drew a cat that had X'd out eyes as well as a butthole because I thought, that seems very fitting. But yeah, so that's a little history on fights and our podcast. If you're ever wondering where the dead cat came from,
you murdered it.
I murdered it. It's also just a fantastic logo. That was thanks to Jared Robinson art, by the way. If anyone's going, who came up with that great dead cat? Jared Robinson. You can look him up. Jared Robinson art. Yeah. So there you go. Well, I mean, regardless of how things went last time, Grant, I think this was actually fun. I think we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm just going to finish it here because I don't want to get into anything else. I mean, I know fights can bring up bad memories, but whatever. But I'm going to say it was fun, and I'm also at this point going to say bye.
Thanks for listening to The Grand Affidavit, a podcast about nothing and everything at the same time. Follow us on Twitter at Grand Affidavit and on Facebook at facebook.com/Grand Affidavit.